on. I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning.
Hello YouTube, Brian Redgrave here again for the review of WrestleMania 36 Night 2. And after the very mediocre Night 1, was Night 2 better? Well, let's see. Let's up, down, middle finger or horn those matches. The first match was Natalya versus Liv Morgan in the kickoff. I actually did not watch this match live. When Mania ended, I went back to watch it since I missed it. It was a decent match, decent bout, pretty solid, for a kickoff match. And just a lot of roll-ups. But Liv Morgan won with the roll-up, so I guess it's fine. She needed the win. She was the right person for the victory. I hope they build towards something with this. They haven't used her at all, barely, correct? Her feud with the Riot Squad, that really went nowhere. Her feud with Lana really didn't go nowhere. So I hope with this victory she moves to something better. Maybe she'll get a title match at some point with this victory. So I'm hoping for good things. She has improved a lot since her days in the Riot Squad, now that she's singles competitor. So we'll see. It can only really go up from here, right? So that's all I'll really say about that. I'll get the match and up. I'll give it the up. It was a decent bout for a kickoff match. And Liv Morgan winning was the right call. So let's just see what's next for her. Let's just move on. Nothing special here. Man, these guys. They sure know how to ruin everything for fans, don't they? So it was Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte. A match that was actually very good, very competitive. It was a good match. Charlotte kept going up to the legs, and they built a story there. But a story that was used for Charlotte to beat her with the figure 4, turning it into a figure 8. So Charlotte won and is your new NXT Women's Champion. That was not the right call. I get it. Maybe you wanted a new champion. But what do you want? Maybe you want to send her back to NXT. So what happens with Rhea Ripley now? You send her to the main roster? You swap? That was not the right call. It would have been nice for Rhea Ripley to beat Charlotte. She challenged her to begin with to get out of Charlotte's shadow, according to her. And it would have been nice for her to win and retain. Instead, we gave her another victory because Charlotte's unstoppable in the women's division. Another title. If you count the NXT title reigns, that's 12 times women's champion if you count the NXT reigns. So in 4 years, she's gonna beat Ric Flair's record, her dad's record, and in the next year? Come on, Vince makes her the ultimate wrestler, women's wrestler, and I get it, she is a decent wrestler, I do like her, but they overdo her too much. There are too many women out here who should be champ, not Charlotte. So we have to give her a title every year. This year's goal, let's make Charlotte champion 3 times. Come on. It was not the right call. Rhea Ripley should have won that match. She made the challenge to Charlotte. She should have beaten her. Like I said, the match was really good, but the result was not what expected. So I'm torn in this one. I have to give it a down. I have to. And not for the match itself, but for the result. Same thing with Shayna and Becky. The match wasn't the problem. The match was fine. But the result of Shayna losing, I gave the middle finger to that. So it wouldn't be fair to give this an up because of that. The match was good, but the result of Charlotte winning was unnecessary. Charlotte doesn't need another title reign. Let's just move on. Alistair Black versus Bobby Lashley was next. And wow, this was just... To begin with, there was no story here leading to this match. No build-up, no prepackaged video, or anything, because there's been no story. This was just a random match that was thrown into Mania. Why were they fighting? Because they got booked to fight. That was it. Michael Cole, I think it was Michael Cole who was the commentator there, sold this like it was a big opportunity for whoever won. And please, Michael, who the fuck are you fooling here? this was no big match. The best part of the match was Alistair's entrance gear. That was it. The match was very boring by the numbers. Bobby dominates because he's the big guy. The only interesting part was the ending. Bobby was about to hit some other move on Alistair. Lana told him to hit the spear. He did. Go for the spear. But as he was running, Alistair hit him with the black mass. Black mass. So it makes me wonder, maybe they did this because they're already beginning to work on Bobby and Lana splitting. Feels a little too soon after we went through months of garbage with that. Because that was all awful. And we didn't even end the storyline. Rusev just disappeared from our screens. So yeah, that was that match. It was terrible. It's getting it down. No big surprise there, right? No big surprise. Match was not good. It was a by the numbers. Bobby dominates most of the match because he's the Mr. Big and Strong. And Alistair just won essentially thanks to Lana, I guess. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good match. Because it wasn't. I hope they don't wrestle again. I really hope this is a one and done. Especially since there's no storyline here. So yeah, let's just move on. Because this was just terrible. Terrible. Up next was my boy Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. Now this has been one of the most interesting builds for this whole card almost. It's been work for months. It's been a good build. It even made me a fan of Heavy Machinery because I really wasn't a fan of them before this whole rivalry. And after the revelations from last SmackDown, I was hoping this match would, be Otis destroying Dolph. It didn't start that way. But then Otis started to dominate the second half. For the record, Sonya Deville came out with Dolph. But I was surprised that Tucker was nowhere to be found in this whole thing. Tucker, where were you? Were you too busy to be a Mania this year? So Otis came out by himself. No Tucker, no Mandy. And except, he dominated the second half of the match. Then Dolph went for a low blow. This prompted Mandy to come out. She came out, stared down Sonya Deville. Blah. She hit her right there. Then she went to Dolph while the referee was distracted with Otis and Sonya on the other side. Low blow to Dolph, which led Otis to do his finisher move when he does the warm or whatever that's called. And he got the victory. 1, 2, 3. Which was the right call. Otis, this has been long overdue. Otis won. He got the girl. He got Mandy Rose. Even though Mandy Rose said, I'm not a prize to be won a Mania. Mandy, that's kind of what you were here. Because you came out and presented yourself like an award to Otis when he won. So, Otis gets the girl finally after 2 months of build-up. Very good. The match wasn't the best thing ever. No. Was it as good as it needed to be? Yes, it was just fine. It was good. And the story was good, and the result was good. Then Mandy gave Otis the kiss, lucky bastard. And that was that match. They kissed, then they celebrated, they walked back up the ramp, and that was that for them. So overall, it was all good, entertaining. One of the better storyline-wise things that they built towards Mania. I mean, compared to something like Bobby versus Alistair, which had no story, this had a lot of story. So, well, can you guess what the rating is? It's getting it up. Now, the question is what happens from here. Is Mandy Rose going to keep feuding with Sonya Deville since Fire and Desire are no more? Is Otis going to keep feuding with Dolph? Is this all done? Is Mandy going to be sticking with Heavy Machinery, be a manager for them? That'll be interesting. It's interesting to see where this is all going to end up leading up to now that it should be done. But if it continues, I'm assuming Mandy versus Sonya continues. Next up was Edge versus Randy Orton. Now, this was the match I was essentially most excited for the storytelling it has been telling for the past couple months since the Royal Rumble. So that's 3 months of build. The storyline, the build-up was all fantastic, and I was so ready for this last man standing match that did not meet my expectations at all. At all. The first problem this match has is it went for way too long. Way too long. Literally, this was probably like 40 something minutes. Way too long. Edge's first match back, 9 years, 1v1, not counting the Rumble. And it had good spots for sure. They ran through the whole performance center essentially. But it went way too long. I went from, yes, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. I'm excited for this. And as the match just kept going and going and going and going, my interest started to fade to black. It got to a point where I was like, well, can this end already? Like, can we move on? The whole match was throughout the whole building, but nothing really happened in the ring. The match started with Randy pretending to be a cameraman, and that led to an RKO. Randy dominated most of the early going. Then it finally got hits in, and it was just like bump after bump. Like, I'll slam you here, then you slam me here, then you slam me here. And it was like, yeah, those good spots for sure. But it just, I think if it would have been in the ring with some action outside, the match would have been better. Sure, but the ending was amazing. It ended with Edge hitting the concerto, whatever that's called, on Randy. Now, before this, Edge was literally crying, selling the emotion that they were friends. Yeah, well, they still are, but in wrestling world, they were friends. He loved them, and that emotion, and then looking at him, and then hitting the chair shot into his head. It was amazing. The storytelling here. Then the ref counted to 10. Match ended. He got down. He got on Randy. I guess he was crying or talking to him. I don't know what the hell he was doing. And it ended. With a lot of emotion, the match ended. Again, the match did not meet my expectation. Could have been better. Could have been shorter. But it was still a good match by two older performers. Especially Edge, his first 1v1. So, because of all that, I will give it the up. It gets an up. Now, this rivalry should be over now. It was amazing build and all that, but it should be over. I want to see what's next for Edge. I don't care what's next for Randy. We see Randy all the time, but I want to know what's next for Edge. What's the next matchup? What's the next storyline? Is he going maybe after a world title? Maybe that's later on and not yet. We'll see. But for now, this gets the up. Next up, a bunch of nobodies. I didn't recognize anybody besides Mojo Rawley. So literally a bunch of nobodies, let's just call them faceless people, came in and were all fighting. Rob Gronkowski, I don't know if I said his name right, dived into all of them. Pin Mojo, 1, 2, 3, and Rob is your new 24/7 champion. That was fine. It was entertaining. I must say I was entertained by this. I know they're friends. So maybe this will build to something. I don't know if Rob's actually gonna be wrestling in WWE. Maybe he is. I don't know. So it'll be entertaining to see. Definitely a good fun segment. That's all it was. It was nothing serious. Nothing really crazy. I'm not gonna up it or down that. It was an entertaining segment. So it was fine. Let's move on. Next up was the Street Profits, or I like to call them the new Crime Time of today. Take on Austin Theory. I just say Austin Aries. Austin Aries ain't with us anymore. Austin Theory, Angel Garza, and there was no storyline here. Even when it was freaking Andrade, there was barely a storyline. It was just something that was rushed, put together. Let's just get this for Mania. But wait, Andrade out, Austin in. Even there was nothing here. Nothing here. No storyline. And then the match was just, if the last match of Edge and Orton was way too long, this was way too short to build or do anything special. Nothing special. I watched it and I was like, okay. That's all I can say. Okay, I'm glad it's over. Whatever. The only highlight is what happened after the match itself. That's really the only highlight of the match. After retaining their titles, Angel and Austin attacked both of them. They held, I don't even know their names. I don't know their names. To me, they're Crime Time. One of them got grabbed. Selena just kicked one of them down. And I like that part. I'm like, okay, so maybe they're going to build towards a storyline for the next pay per view. Maybe that's what they were doing. But that didn't last too long because Bianca Belair came in, made the save, saved her husband by attacking Selena. Then everybody got thrown out. I was like, okay, so I guess she's debuting now in the main roster. I'm hoping this is just to debut her and not just a one time only. She is a pretty good wrestler. I've seen some matches of her. I don't watch NXT. I've seen some matches of her. And from what I've seen, I do like her. From what I've seen in the Rumble, Survivor Series, she is good. So hopefully she does something and it's not just a manager. Let's see. It's getting it down. No, there's nothing to argue. There's getting it down. It was way too short, nothing important, and barely any story. There was barely any story before, but now with Austin, even less of a story now. So it's getting it down. Bianca's part was good, but I can't give it an up just because of her showing up after the match already ended. The match was already over, and it was just way too short. Maybe some of the Edge Orton time should have been put here, but that's not the case. So this gets a down. Next up was what was supposed to be a six-pack challenge between Lacey Evans, Dana Brooke, Bayley, Sasha, Tamina, Naomi. Dana Brooke in real life is sick, so she was taken out of the match. And it became a fatal five-way between Lacey, Sasha, Bayley, Tamina, and Naomi. Now this match was pretty good, pretty decent. The result surprised me. So everybody was on Tamina. Everybody jumped off the turnbuckle onto Tamina one by one. Tamina was out. She was the first one eliminated. Then they all started wrestling. Sasha took out Naomi. She made her tap out. Goodbye, clown. See you out of here. And it was Bayley, Sasha, Lacey. Eventually, Bayley accidentally hit Sasha. Then they got into an argument later. This resulted in Lacey hitting the woman's right, essentially on Sasha, and taking her out. Bayley could have broken the pin, but didn't. Then they had a 1v1, and I was surprised because I thought this would end with Bayley and Sasha. I guess not. And then they started having a match. Sasha came back, backstab her. Bayley attacked, and pinned Lacey for the 1-2-3. So Bayley's still champ. It really surprised me that it wasn't Bayley and Sasha at the end. I was surprised that Sasha came back in to help. And she even handed Bayley the title, put it on her waist. I guess they're gonna build to maybe a 1v1 actual confrontation down the line, where I'm going to assume Sasha will end up being the babyface to Bayley's heel. I'm assuming this is a guess. I don't actually know. But Bayley continues her reign as SmackDown Women's Champion. Now, whenever this match happens, we all know it'll be good. They're very good. Two of the best women's wrestlers right now. So, with Bayley being the champ, it's quite obvious that Sasha will be the one to take the gold from her. So, I'm looking forward to that match when it happens. I'm very excited for it. It'll be very good. And like I said, I'm pretty sure Sasha will probably turn babyface for that. So the match will get an up. It was a very good, entertaining match. Maybe had Dana been in it, who knows? It might have been even better. Maybe it would have been worse with too many people. But it was very good. It surprised me that Tamina was the first one out because, they normally have the big people, big characters be monsters and dominate. I was surprised she was the first one out, but they took her out like a monster. It literally took everybody. So the match gets an up. So let's move on to the most interesting part of this show. This wasn't even a match. It was not even a match. It was John Cena versus The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. I was really looking forward to this match. I was worried about the concept of the Funhouse match. And boy, was I right to be worried. So let's get this straight. All this was extremely funny. It was gold when it comes to comedy. But when you say Fiend versus Cena, you don't think comedy. Cena came down to the ring, normal Cena, and Bray Funhouse segment happened. And if you thought Taker and Kane had powers, oh boy, they got nothing on Bray. Because he teleported Cena to the Funhouse. Now, I'm pretty sure had Mania been normal, this shit wouldn't have happened. But he teleported Cena to the Funhouse. Cena opened the door, and he went through phases of his career, including ruthless aggression, Bray was literally saying pretty much everything Kurt said all them years ago. They played that segment. They went back to the old days of wrestling, Hulk Hogan Macho Man style. Boy, what didn't they do? This was just segment after segment after segment, and no wrestling. No wrestling in a wrestling pay-per-view. I mean, if you pay $60 to see wrestling, this wasn't it. Luckily for $9.99, they can do all these stunts for whatever. Cena came in, Dr. Orthogonomics, again, no wrestling, he started rapping. This was all funny and entertainment from that regard, yes. But there was no wrestling here whatsoever, except for like 2 moves later on. So Dr. Orthogonomics came in, he started rapping, because Bray has the power to force people to rap and rhyme only. Like I said, Taker and Kane got nothing on this fool. Then, my favorite segment was when Cena, he introduced Cena, Hollywood, Hulk Hogan style, NWO style. Cena came in, played the electric guitar. That was all funny. Bray was Eric Bischoff through that segment. But again, when you think of Cena versus Bray Wyatt, you don't think comedy, do you? It was all fun. Yes, this would have been entertaining in SmackDown towards the build-up or something. But in the actual match, this was not wrestling whatsoever. It was magic. It was a magic show. And you guys know, if you see my review from last night's episode, from yesterday's episode of WrestleMania 36 Part 1, you know how I feel about this now. And as fun and as entertaining as this all was, it wasn't wrestling. And then my hype for it began to disappear when I started to realize they weren't going to wrestle. Here's the thing. Bray Wyatt did beat John Cena, but as a Bray Wyatt fan, Fiend fan, it didn't feel like he accomplished anything. Because it wasn't a match. It was a match in their world. It wasn't a wrestling match in our world. He took him out with like 2 moves. They recreated WrestleMania 30. Bray and Cena. Bray came back to his old gear. It was a cool nod to his old character. They mentioned Husky Harris. But this was not wrestling. This was a big WTF moment. What is going on? I can see now why this was not the main event. This was not the main event, and you can see why. I used to think maybe it would be Drew or Brock or Cena and Fiend. But when you watch this, you see and know why they chose Drew versus Brock. This was straight ridiculousness at its finest. Like I said, this was all gold if you think about it as a comedy thing. It was all funny. It was all enjoyable. But if you watch it as a match, it is a complete failure as a wrestling match. I wanted The Fiend to beat John Cena in a wrestling match for what happened at WrestleMania 30, because I was a Bray Wyatt supporter then, and for what happened versus Goldberg. If you want to be technical, Bray Wyatt did win. He did beat John Cena, but how JBL calls him, the greatest of all time. But it didn't feel monumental. It didn't feel like Bray accomplished anything. I was a big fan of it as a comedy segment. It was funny, but it was way too ridiculous. Too ridiculous for a match. Ridiculous. I have to give it a down. I have to. The Fiend did win. That is what I wanted. But I have to give it a down because I wanted a wrestling match. I wanted them to wrestle, and I didn't get that. Again, it was all entertaining. I was a fan of it, laughing-wise, because it was funny. But as a wrestling match, it was no good. There was 2 moves in this match. 2 moves. Next up was the main event. Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre. And going in, I wanted Drew to win the world champion. And after they let me down quite a few times throughout these 2 nights, Shayna Baszler lost, Rhea Ripley lost, I was worried, scared for my life that Drew McIntyre was not going to bring the big one home. and especially with rumors of Raw SmackDown taking a break because they might not be able to film anymore. I was like, oh boy, is Brock gonna retain? Because they're gonna go on a break. They might not want a new champ from here to then. But no, Drew McIntyre won the WWE Champion. And if you don't know this about me, I've been a fan of Drew McIntyre since he was the chosen one. And I suffered through 3MB. I suffered through all that. I always said, man, he's so great. Why are they doing this? But he's here. He made it to the top. It's just a shame that the match where it happened was really not good. Again, what's up with Brock and Goldberg only having what I'm going to call finisher matches, where you only hit the big moves? All we really saw were F5, suplexes, and Claymore. Why is this the norm? I get it. Goldberg ain't a very good wrestler. He's never really been. That's his thing. But Brock is a good wrestler. He used to wrestle before the UFC. And he's a legitimate fighter. There was no reason for him to just have 2 damn moves. Come on. The match disappointed me in every possible level. The only thing that saved it was the result. Drew McIntyre is your new WWE Champion. And I'm excited to see what brings for the future. Question is, what happens now? Are they going to wrestle again? Was this a one and done? I hope it's a one and done because this match was nothing great. It was not even really a good match. But I hope Drew has a long title reign ahead of him. I hope he proves to everybody why he was chosen one. And that brings the night to a close. That was the main event. Now, does it get an up or down? Well, I'm torn on it because the match was no good. But the result made me so happy, because I wanted Drew to win. I've been a fan of Drew since the Chosen One days, but unfortunately this match did not deliver. And wow, the result was amazing. Drew winning was the right call. If I review the fight will get a down. The fight gets a down. I hate these finisher matches. I'm beginning to really hate Goldberg and Brock's matches when they're just finisher matches. Come on. This was absolutely a ridiculous match. It could have been great. Brock is a good wrestler when he wants to be. Drew McIntyre is a great wrestler. This match should have been phenomenal. Should have been great. But just finishers. The match itself was no good. But Drew winning the WWE Champion, that gets the heavy metal horns. For that was awesome. It was long overdue. I feel bad for him that he couldn't win the title in front of a crowd. Because I'm sure that they would have blown up of excitement and happiness when he won that. Fans love Drew. He is great. I feel bad for him in that regard. But I have to give this the heavy metal horn. Because Drew winning the match, becoming champion, was awesome. Overall, we have 4 ups, 4 downs, and the heavy metal horns for awesome. Literally almost equaling yesterday's event where it was 4 ups, 4 downs, and a middle finger. So that tells you this WrestleMania was very, very mediocre. When you combine both nights or nights separately, it was a very mediocre WrestleMania. And probably one of the worst in a long time, probably, to be quite honest. Bad. Obviously, this Mania was affected by COVID-19. That led to the no crowd, the set being nothing special, not feeling like Mania at all. This was something out of their control. They did the best they could with this situation. I can't really fault them, and I feel bad. I will thank them for giving us entertainment, but, the show itself wasn't that good, and I think it would have been the same with no crowd or crowd. Would have probably been the same. Well, maybe not, because I don't think Taker's match and Bray's match would have been like this had this been a normal WrestleMania. But I think besides those 2 matches, I think everything would have been the same. Maybe the results would have been the same. So yeah, they did the best they could have with the situation, but it really was not a very good Mania. Mediocre at best. But let's see what's for the future. Let's see what happens in Raw and SmackDown. Sure, the Raw after Mania won't feel like that, but we'll see. If you like, share, subscribe. If you agree with me, let me know. If you agree, if you disagree, also let me know and tell me why you disagree. So that was WrestleMania 36, Night 2. Thank you guys for watching. Please be safe, stay at home, don't go out, wash your hands, and take care. Brian Redgrave, out.
Out of time.